this because I said I would, but I've put a whole pile of stuff in my post from when they started messing with my phone during my last live, and they just switched my phone off again at 7. But I need to get this out because I'll just give you a quick synopsis. So when they switched my phone off a couple of hours ago, I started documenting the immediate effects that I could feel on my body. And it was all to do with, but it's like my left brain and right brain instantly started firing up. I felt it. I could physically feel it. I could physically feel the ion particles in the atmosphere charging and hitting my skin, and firing up the synapses of my brain from my left side then to my right side, which means it immediately went to my scientific logical mind over to, my conscience and my thoughts and feelings and, reasoning and all that. And it was absolutely fascinating. But this time around at 7 o'clock, I started feeling it in my feet, my right foot especially, my cheeks and under my eyes. And I just said, I'm not going to do anything because I'm still waiting to see the fallout of what happened when they turned it off around 5ish. But because they've done it 3 times, although I don't know about the first time, but I'm pretty sure they've done it 3 times, but I can only go by when it went into emergency calls only. It means that it's going to have a double knock-on effect, a double whammy. So it's going to be like boom, boom, 2 things at once happening to them, but also to me. And I've got to tell you, I can already feel it. And I said, because I was seeing the gold dots, and whenever you see the gold dots, that is the electrostatic charge in the atmosphere opening you up to the creation frequency or the God particle. That's what allows you to see things. That's what's inside the wormholes and stuff. If they mess with my phone again, it's Elon Musk, because what I was just writing was, I'm going to get a download. When I saw those gold dots, I knew it meant I was about to get a download. I was about to start seeing things. So I just documented everything in writing, and it is there. I'll put the links in the description box, but it is there. You can see it all. And then I was just listening to a sermon because I thought, right, if I'm going to get a download, it's going to be a big one. And it's like my body, how do I put it? Do you know what it feels like? It's like I'm sitting inside a bubble that is the inside of an atom. So it's like I'm sitting inside the atom. I'm navigating the core of the atom that is allowing me to navigate all that I see, because I am the cosmic tree at this point, right? And every time they mess with me, my tree gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I physically felt it. I'm so glad I documented this, because as a scientist, this is fascinating. I'm literally drooling at the mouth because it's like I need to get this stuff out because I'm so excited. So it's like I've turned into a ball of electricity, and my inside cells have fired up to connect to the outside cells. So my biorhythmic parameter, so my physical reality, is fired up. My internal reality, like my brain and my central nervous system and all that, in order to connect to the biometric frequency, which is the stratosphere, the ionosphere, the universe, the conscious universe. It's like when they did it, it changed the atmosphere around me to get my body to react to dial up the gold phone. And when I started seeing the gold dots, I knew something was incoming. But I had to sit and wait. Obviously, I said I'm waiting for the results. But then they did it again to my phone. And I said in my notes, I'm about to get a download, so I immediately went and got some food because I know that I'm going to be utterly drained by the time the call drops, by the time the phone call hangs up. I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw. I saw, remember, if my phone cuts off, you know it's Elon. I saw Elon Musk in a building with lots of doors and a long corridor, and it was kind of white with a marble-ishy effect floor. And he was wearing black pants, black t-shirt and a black jacket, and he was walking with people that looked like lawyers, and people were taking photos of him, and he wasn't talking. People were trying to talk to him, ask him questions, Elon, blah, 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 and he wasn't talking. He just was focusing on this room, and when he walked into the room, there was a judge there. It was a courtroom. He was walking into a courtroom. Whatever it was the judge said, he was not happy with the outcome, because it meant he had to leave. He had to go. You've got to go. We can't do this anymore. You've got to go. And then I just saw a massive for sale sign over SpaceX, and he was on a plane leaving America. But then it's like he's been kicked out of America, or getting himself to a point where he doesn't have a choice but to leave America, because they won't keep him there, or nobody will deal with him anymore, or something like that. So whatever happens to him, or I mean, he could flee. He could flee because of what I'm about to say next. Then I saw Zelensky, a headstone with his picture on a headstone. And I saw someone with the Ukrainian flag on his shoulder, which I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, shaking hands with Vladimir Putin and calling a truce. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that anything's going to happen to Zelensky, though I do think it will. But I think it's like the death of his presidency. Because this man in the uniform with the Ukrainian flag on his shoulder, it's like they're saying enough, like done. This is it, we're done, this enough. We're not doing this anymore. And terminating his presidency or him. But I saw a headstone with his picture on it. And the thing was, nobody cared, because then it bounced. And this is what I'm saying. Remember when I was talking about Archimedes' bow, how what you fire, what you send, those that are protected by the reverse engineer portal bounces off and comes back to you. And then I said it's like they get trapped inside the mirror of liminal space that then gets fired into dark matter, where they bounce about through consequences and choices, and that smashes them like shells on a rock. Remember? Well, this I think is the bouncing about, because after I saw his headstone and the man in what I think was an army uniform, I'm pretty sure because it was all camo and that, with the Ukraine flag on his shoulder, shaking Putin's hand, there was like they were ripping off pieces of bread and drinking what looked like sherry or something to celebrate, but it was some sort of ritualistic truce thing, breaking bread together, and like a gentleman's agreement. That's kind of what it felt like, but steeped in tradition, because people around Zelensky, they've had enough. Too much controversy, bringing about the humiliation of Ukraine, and sick of it. Can't take the slaughter anymore. They can't take it anymore. It's gotten to the point now where I think they're talking behind Zelensky's back on how to bring him down, and there may even be talk of making it a final action, if you know what I mean, i.e. the headstone. But it could mean the death of his presidency. But no one cared. People celebrated because once he was gone, nations were wealthier and people stopped dying. People weren't paying out for his thievery and lies and money laundering anymore. And then it bounced to Macron getting ousted as president of France. There's going to be a revolution in France. There's going to be a revolution against Elon Musk, which has a knock-on effect with Zelensky, which has a knock-on effect with Macron, where they're going to be ousted, and then it bounced to Starmer in handcuffs, and then it bounced to von der Leyen at The Hague. So it's like liminal space, ping pong ball, bounce, 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 bounce. Then it went back to Elon Musk. And so I'm looking at the input, reading the codes in the phaser, the input-output valves of the phaser, of the God frequency. Because, like, how do I put it? When I connect to what I call the God phone, and I'm about to get a download, I have to put in codes that are like, like you would a combination lock. And depending on what kind of codes I put in, I either can see what's coming or I can control what's coming. Quantum magnetics versus the God particle. The God particle allows me to see with, I call it my crystal ball eyes. Or quantum magnetics is manipulating time to manifest reality, depending on what I'm needed for at the time. And I knew when they messed with my phone just before 5, I was about to get a download. I knew immediately that because of I was seeing the gold particles. So the phasers are real, by the way. They're a real thing. They're electromagnetic pulses in the atmosphere, and I read them like combination locks. I read the static like Morse code, and then I can translate the codes that I put into the phaser. I can translate into what I see, into language, but I can also put them in to see what I need to see, like when I write stuff down and it happens. But then, like in that case where I saw the gold sparkles, the code was being fed to me, so it comes in like a download. When I see the gold particles, it means that it's an incoming call. But when I have to put the codes in the phasers, it's an outgoing call. I call it the God phone. It goes back to that experiment that my teacher was working on in the 80s with those scientists at Caltech. I finished her experiment for them. So I just sat and waited, thinking, okay, I'm going to get some news within the next couple of hours, because something's going to come where news is going to hit, where I'll be able to say, look, this is the knock-on effect of what they did to me. Because every time they do it to me, I power up, and then something happens to them. So I'm waiting to find out that something's happened to them. But then they did it again. I'm pretty sure they did it 3 times, but it only went into emergency calls only twice. But they did mess with my last live, I'm pretty sure, by messing with my the system UI thing. But so I just sat and waited. And then when they just did it at 7, that's when I went and got the food, because I know I'm going to have to start eating as soon as this is over. I'm going to eat all day, I just know it. And waited, and then that's when I got the hit. So there's going to be a revolution in France. Macron is going to be removed from power. They're going to remove him from power. The people are going to charge with their torches and pitchforks and remove him from office. And they're going to have another election. Somebody is going to, like a coup, but the same thing's going to happen in Ukraine. But with Ukraine, it's going to be with Zelensky's own military. I'm just, that's because they're suffering. They're suffering too much. He's getting fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter, feeding off everything that he's getting out of this, while the people around him are suffering. Not everybody in his military, not everybody in his government are reaping the rewards that him and his corrupt officials are, the ones that he's allowing to get their fingers into the coffers in order to silence them, because the ones that are taking money from what's being donated to the war fund, they have things on Zelensky, and I'm getting to that in a minute. So when I was putting in the codes into the input of the phases in the ionosphere, I asked, what do they all have in common with Elon Musk? And it came back, election fraud. I'm not joking. So you know how they're already talking about how he rigged Trump's election. According to this, according to the God codes, he also rigged von der Leyen's last election, because remember they all had to elect whether to try and convict her and keep her in and stuff like that. He rigged the voting machines. He rigged Starmer's election. He rigged Zelensky's election and Macron's. And so what they're doing is, so that he doesn't spill the beans, because he's got secrets on them and everything they do is all about having information on them in order to blackmail them, they let him put in Palantir and do the Digicoin and his drones and his military stuff, because he helped them get into power. These people would not have gotten into power if the truth about them was known before they ran ran in the election, and he helped them get in on the promise that if when you win, you have to let me put in Palantir, you have to let me put in AI, you have to let me, you have to turn everything into digital coins, because that's what Donald Trump did. That's what, as soon as he got into power, he had Musk right there. We're going to do Palantir, we're going to do the digicoins, we're going to do that, do that. He's going to take over flights, he's going to take over NASA, all of that. Sorry, I'm just getting it, I'm waiting for it to come in. I was just watching videos about catfishing. It popped up on my thing, and there was this woman who thought she was in a relationship with a K-pop guy, and it piqued my interest because remember when I was doing my investigation, watching those women on X thinking that they were having relationships with K-pop man, Jimin. I keep calling him Jiminy, but I think it's Jimin or something. And someone called Wang, last name Wang. And I was watching it with intense interest, because with the whole thing with Yo.Cello, I had to investigate that as well, because I wanted to see how far the scam went. And I knew that with Tunisia Man and the fake Yodocs and that they were, because some of these women were saying that they were asking for passwords, they were asking for money, they were asking for Bitcoin. And I got asked for Bitcoin from someone from Yodocs actual official X account. And on WhatsApp, they asked for the passwords and they asked for money. And they didn't care how little money I had or how much money I had, they wanted it. Then they asked for those Apple cards. And obviously, I went public with it because I'm trying to warn people, don't be stupid. I've never given money to anyone. I've never given money to anyone because I just sat and observed. But I was watching that, and I was going to comment on it. I was going to put up a post and say, "Oh, this is these K-pop catfishes and that. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I've been trying to let everyone know because like they hunt for men and women because some of these catfishes and that it's one man completely screwed up his marriage because he thought that some Ukrainian gymnast or ice skater was in love with him, and he was trying to send her all this money and stuff like that, even though these people are millionaires, multimillionaires. People don't think, they don't think. Oh, he'd never do that to me, but it's like, why would millionaires be looking up single people over a certain age because they believe that they have retirement funds and savings and all that? Why would they be asking for money? Sort of thing. And this is what I've been trying to say to people ever since I've been putting out the warnings about, the Yo.Cello thing. And because my Yo.Cello situation goes all the way back to Elon Musk. And so there I'm sitting there reading the codes and I'm thinking he blackmails people. He's got things over them. And the thing that he has over them is he rigs elections for them. This is what I'm reading in the codes. Elon Musk rigs elections for people in the cult of Odin. Mark Carney. You know how they're saying France is investigating Elon Musk over the whole Grok pedophile thing? It's all a lie. You know how they're saying that, Starmer isn't talking to Trump, that they're fighting and Trump doesn't like Starmer and that? It's all a lie. They're playing a game. It's all staged because they're all in on it. This G7 meeting that they had, they're all in on it. They have no intentions of calling a truce with Russia because they're making too much money from it. But the situation, the decision has been taken out of their hands because whoever takes over from Zelensky wants peace with Russia. Whoever takes over from France, and I'm pretty sure it might be Marine Le Pen, will want to do business with Russia. America will call a truce. I'm just trying to read it. Because what's happening is, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, Russia's economy is about to become the world superpower. Because he's made all the right decisions, because Putin has dealt with everything the right way, he's starting to win the respect of everybody. And when all this is over and the world sees Russia rise from the underworld, Russia rise up from death, he's going to have a newfound respect from people, and a lot of people are going to see the way that he takes Russia into the future and want to be a part of it. He's going to be like a mentor to the nations recovering from what their leaders have put them through, like Ukraine and France and Germany and all that. Although Germany's going to end up so broke they have to join another country in order to survive, and it could be possibly Austria. I've thought that before, but they'll look forward to the future, and the future is Russia. And these things to be discovered on Russian soil, and I have talked about this before, that is going to make them exceedingly wealthy. And people will be falling over themselves to have a slice of the pie. Sorry, my phone's going. And he's going to teach them how to grow up, as in how to grow their economy up. He's going to, instead of turning his back and saying, no, I'm not helping you, France, because you did this to me, he's going to say, all right, if you want me to help you, if you want me to show you how to do it, if you want me to show you how I do it, you have to do this, 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 and this. But it's reasonable things. Like, I think I've talked about this before. I want a trans-Europe railway where we have trains going from Russia to France. Or you have to use your expertise in car manufacturing, like Germany, and help us work on a fossil-fueled car that's this, and this. Because I'm telling you now, electric vehicles are going to get dumped. People are going to go back to petrol cars. People will go back to having petrol cars. Fossil fuels and gas and things like coal, the planet is never, ever, 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 ever going to run out of. They are renewable resources. They replenish themselves over and over and over and over and over again. As long as there is things living and breathing on this planet, we will always have gas, oil and coal. Whereas electric, you have to mine the lithium, you have to make the planet suffer, and then drain the energy in order just to plug it in and drive it. So people are going to dump electric vehicles and go back to petrol because it's better for the environment. And Russia, I don't know. I kind of want to say, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm just telling you what I'm being told. I think before the war started, Russia had an idea for a car. They were planning on doing something with cars that they had to stop to use all the resources and metal and that for making bombs and stuff. But they'll be able to go back to cars, and what's going to happen is, for example, they'll start their own car manufacturers again, but they'll be petrol. And people will start importing these cars, these petrol cars, from Russia because electric vehicles are killing the planet. And with the war in Iran coming to an end and petrol will drop and that sort of thing, there's no reason why people can't have petrol cars anymore. It's that sort of thing. I want to say transport, something to do with transport. He'll say like, okay, I'll help you out. I'll do deals with you. We'll go into business together, but you have to let me put a railway system, into your country, and then we can, for tourism and transport and all that sort of thing. Transport line, I don't know what that means. Transport line. And a shipping line, and what's going to happen is it's going to boost Russia's economy and they will become the superpower. They're going to become the world superpower. They will supersede China because it's their reward for doing everything right in regards to how they were treated by Ukraine and the EU and the United Kingdom and that. And as a result, it's going to expose election rigging and election fraud. And I'm just asking as I'm talking, you know how I've always said that Trump is Lucifer, that's 100%, and that it's not Israel that is the boss of America, it's America that's the boss of Israel, that Trump is the one in control of Netanyahu and all of that. Trump is the one pulling all the strings. And I'm just asking, I'm just fiddling with the codes. But is Elon Musk pulling Trump's strings? And it came back, yes, because he uses blackmail as a tactic, which is what he was trying to do with me with the fake Yodox and the Tunisia man and that, trying to get things, you know, the Bowen Kingsley. He tried to implant the child pornographicals in order to blackmail is his thing. Blackmail is Trump's thing. It's the Epstein thing as well. And what I would hasten to say is, Elon Musk was more involved with Jeffrey Epstein than even Donald Trump. Elon Musk has more to do with Jeffrey Epstein, which, okay, hang on. Which is why J.P. Morgan and Chase had him in court in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and Musk's access to Epstein's money on the Virgin Islands. He was doing stuff with Epstein's money. So I'm trying to see what I'm seeing. I was just listening to a sermon before I hit record about how God breaks you just before He blesses you, and that in order to rise into your power, He has to tear everything down, and that the trouble that people have is when God is testing them and breaking them down, and basically causing a death in them, so that they can be reborn and rise. Everyone gives up when it gets too hard. He's basically talking about ascensions. But I had to hit record because I started getting downloads. I'm trying to see what I'm seeing. So, okay, so he uses his stuff to rig elections. He messes, because everything's all electronic now, he messes with the voting system through using his satellites and electronics and, you know, Wi-Fi and all of that. But he falsifies documents. That's what that's what it looks like. He falsifies documents. He falsifies documents. You know how it came out? The whistleblower came out and said that him and Trump were messing, you know, when he got into Doge, messing with people's social security, how Trump gave him access to everyone's social security, and he was going to mark 2.7 million people down as dead so that they'd be deported. in regards to Zelensky, von der Leyen, Macron, Starmer, Carney, Trump, Netanyahu, all of them, the Trump family, he falsifies documents. What does that mean, though? I know that a lot of stuff that we see on the media is all fake. They're trying to make out like Putin's fighting off a coup, that the people of Russia are starving, that the economy's doing really bad. I know that he falsifies news articles and news reports, and we know he falsifies X and social media, but they're showing me actual documents. What documents would he be? Stocks and bonds? Sorry, I'm putting in, is it stocks and bonds? He falsifies stocks and bonds? Question mark? What I'm getting back is he falsifies legitimacy and documents. Fraud. So, like, when these leaders and stuff are going to court or they've been questioned about things, they're holding up documents and saying, oh, we've got this document, but we've got it here in writing. We have this document, we have this certificate, we have this thing, but it's false. Okay, right, okay, I'm getting it. So then, whoever it is that has been shown the documents, they're putting things into the system and it's coming back as legitimate because he's messed with the system. He's falsified documents and stored it in his little space box so that if on the surface it looks like everything's legit. On the surface, it looks like Keir Starmer really is Prime Minister. But when you go to the, like I said, that freedom of information thing, they have no record of Keir Starmer taking the oath of office. There's no record of Keir Starmer in the legal books as having taken the oath of office. But through Musk's help, they've made his prime ministerialship look legitimate on the surface. But if you dig underneath, you'll see he's not legitimately the Prime Minister of Great Britain. And the same is said with Zelensky, von der Leyen and Macron and Mark Carney. He's holding things over them, and it'll be the Epstein stuff, because what I'm getting is that he had a closer relationship to Jeffrey Epstein than anybody else. He's the best friend that nobody knew about. They agreed to keep their relationship separate and silent and secret so that Musk could get away with the stuff that he was getting away with, but he didn't know that Epstein didn't trust him with a lot of things, which is why he recorded him with the girls. You know, I've given you that stuff that Iran downloaded in regards to him picking out that girl, the little girl, and he looked like he was about to eat her alive. It's like he was clenching his teeth. He couldn't wait to get a hold of this kid. I'm just waiting for the next. So what people need to do, if you're wanting to get rid of your prime ministers and presidents of Europe and the Commonwealth, you need to dig deeper into the public records of their elections, and you're going to find there's going to be some sort of obvious gap between what you're seeing on the surface and the truth of what's been documented, and you're going to find that there's inconsistencies between the voting, or who voted, or where voted, or how voted, or whatever, and the truth of what was documented at the polling stations. And the inconsistency is going to reveal that their presidency and their prime ministerial win is fraudulent, because the only way they were going to pull off this cult of Odin New World Order thing is if they made sure that everyone's grandkids, great grandkids, and that from the past, I was saying how they've been lining this up for centuries, were all in power at the same time to take down Russia and the Middle East, and blame the Jews. And the only way they could do that was by making sure that one person was in control of the elections. And that went to Elon Musk. Because his grandfather, is it his grandfather? Is high ranking. All the people in power today have respect for his grandfather because of the rank that he was as a Nazi. The role he played as a Nazi, they worshipped him. They respect him. They worship him for it. So they immediately fell at Elon's feet and allowed him to do whatever he wanted for them, because they knew he was going to get them into power, and that he would have things over them. But as long as everybody played the same game and kept quiet, they'd be able to pull it off, because whoever his grandfather was high up in the echelons of the cult. Like Aleister Crowley, how they all had babies with Aleister Crowley and like that. And I know Zelensky had grandfathers who they're saying fought in World War II. But his grandfathers fought with Robert Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. They grew up around the same areas. They all fought, together. And his grandfathers had some sort of connection to what happened to the Queen and Epstein and all that. There is a connection there. They're all connected somehow. The grandparents raised the parents to raise the grandkids, who were raised by the great-grandparents and it's all been passed down from generation to generation. And the thing is, they're hiding Zelensky's past. They're making out like he's a war hero and his grandfathers were war heroes and stuff, but there's massive missing pieces of the puzzle that they're hiding in regards to Zelensky's past, and it's connected to his grandfathers and the truth of who their grandfathers really were, or what they really did, or what they really partook in. I researched it a couple of weeks ago, and there's massive inconsistencies with what Zelensky is telling people about his past. He does not go into detail, and that's a red flag. It's not that he's a Jew, it's that he's a Nazi. And there were Ukrainian Jews who were pretending to be on the side of the Allies who were actually working for the Nazis, because I've got proof of it. It's saved in my phone. There were Jews that worked for the Nazis. And if he really is a Jew, then his grandfathers did things for the Nazis pretending to be on the side of the Allies. But Ukraine in World War II were not, they were not nice to Jews. So you have to ask, if he really is Jewish and his grandparents were really Jewish, how did they get away with it? He says that he had people killed in the concentration camps. But you had to hide being Jewish in Ukraine. There's famous footage of Ukrainian Jews and that being absolutely brutalised in the streets. How did his grandfathers get away with it? There were Jews in Ukraine and Jews in all over Europe and that were selling out their own family members in order to save themselves. But there were also Jews who were pretending to be on the side of the Germans and that to keep themselves alive. But what I'm saying is, whatever Zelensky's story is in connection to his grandparents in World War II, there's things being kept secret. There's inconsistencies there that need to be investigated. But what you need to do is you need to look at public records. Don't go online, because that's where Musk has it over on everyone, is that he's controlling, with the help of like Zuckerberg and Gates and, Ziegler, Microsoft, all that sort of thing, the narrative of what you have access to online. You will need to go to courthouses and the electoral office and that sort of thing and look at what is documented away from the internet. And you're going to find that what you're being told and what has actually been recorded, documented in these offices are two completely different things in regards to von der Leyen, Macron, Zelensky, Mark Carney, Keir Starmer, Donald Trump. And it's all roads are going to lead back to Elon Musk and Palantir. And with all the lies that they're spreading, as I put up the day before yesterday, it's against the Geneva Convention to promote propaganda in war. And you know how they keep saying all the horrible stuff about Vladimir Putin, and how they were saying they took his oil tanker because he tried to move a shadow fleet through British waters, and they stole the tanker. And that they admitted that they knew it was illegal to do so, and they didn't have the legal documents in place in order to do it. But because the Attorney General said, "Yeah, go on, do it," Starmer took the oil tanker and basically committed piracy in order to steal the oil. It wasn't illegal. In order to seize a sanctioned oil tanker, you have to go through the courts. There has to be legal documents, and Starmer never did that. They just used the British commando and committed piracy, just like Trump did with Venezuela, because remember I said Trump was teaching Britain and that how to do it. So they stole from Russia illegally. There was no, in order to sanction these ships, you have to have papers in order, and they knew in doing so it would be illegal. But they didn't have time to get all the legal framework done, so they just took the ship. That's piracy. And then all the stuff that like the BBC and Sky News and everything on YouTube and Instagram and X and all that, where they're saying Russia's broke, they're planning a coup against Russia, against Putin, and that the people are starving and he's running out of money and blah, 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 that's propaganda. And even if you haven't declared war on the person, under the Geneva Conventions Act, that's against the law, and you can be charged for that. And this is where I think von der Leyen and that end up at The Hague, because remember she was trying to say that he was trying to drone bomb her plane, and that they had to circle around to come into landing. Remember they said that he drone bombed Chernobyl and drone bombed the British Embassy in Ukraine and that. That's provocation. And it was also propaganda, and they're against the Geneva Convention. And Britain's involvement in it is bad, because even under the laws of the Geneva Convention, you don't have to be actively at war with the person that you're creating the propaganda against. It is still against the law, because it's considered like fear-mongering and trying to poke the bear to cause trouble and causing pain and suffering and all that to innocent people in order to get away with trying to start a war or being in a war, and it's against the law. So it's like I put the framework in place for this download that's coming in now, and all roads lead back to Elon Musk and Doge and Palantir. He's got things over them, and what he's got over them is, you know, I know, you wouldn't be in power if it wasn't for me. And that's why they let him get away with the stuff he's getting away with. However, the start of the download was him walking into a courtroom, and he was arrogant. He thought he was going to get away with something. And the judge was onto him from the beginning. So he's got some major court case, like a really big one, to do with his assets somehow. And he's going to lose his assets. He might even lose SpaceX, because I saw a for sale sign. And then I saw his rocket, which is totally phallic because he has a broken penis, remember? So I don't know if he's got a court case coming up, and this is definitely in America, or whether he's currently in a court case that's got something to do with his assets. And he's going to lose his assets. And he's either going to have to leave America, like get deported, or he's going to flee America, because the pitchforks and torches are going to come after him. But there is no home for him. His money's not real. None of it's real. It's all an illusion. There is no home for him. So he'll have to go back to South Africa, because nobody will want him. Because they don't want to go down with him, especially once they see Zelensky and Starmer and Macron and von der Leyen get caught up in God's blender of truth. He'll become a social pariah. It's starting to slow down now. Keir Starmer lied about, you know how they're trying to say the Ukrainian rent boys were put up to it by a Russian and that Russia was responsible for the arson. I've already proven that's a lie because I've already been able to prove that the Ukrainian rent boys are connected to Zelensky and Jeffrey Epstein and that whole Wayne James, Jean-Luc Brunel modelling agencies, and Donald Trump's modelling agencies and all that, they're all connected. I was able to prove that the rent boys are connected to Zelensky and the modelling agencies that Zelensky was connected to, with Jeffrey Epstein. So Keir Starmer has lied. They've lied. They've committed perjury in order to blame Russia. But I've already proven that the rent boys were connected to Zelensky and Epstein and Donald Trump. I proved that last year already. So, and also because they tried to say that they were speaking to a Russian on Telegram, and Telegram's been banned in Russia since 2018. It's not to say it couldn't be a Russian speaking person in a different country, but I'm just saying if they tried to say that it was a Russian in Russia, it's a lie because Telegram was banned in 2018. And people think that he's a monster for banning social media, but it's because he's not an idiot and he knows that it's all for spying on people. Because these presidents and prime ministers, they know they're frauds. They know that they're fraudulently in power. They know they're connected to Epstein and the cult and that they're Nazis and stuff, and they're excessively paranoid. And so they have to spy on everyone to see who's talking about them and what they're saying. So, they came up with, we're no longer encrypting WhatsApp and we're no longer encrypting this and we're listening in on this, that and the other because of the paranoia, because they can't trust each other. And they know it's only a matter of time before one of them whistleblows and squeals. And so they need to watch everyone to see who's whistleblowing and who's squealing. But see, I don't talk like this to anyone on my Telegram or WhatsApp because none of the people I talk on there, like, it's none of the, like, it's not their involvement, it's my involvement. And I don't hide anything. I put it all out there because I'm honest and I stand in the truth. I speak the truth. So I have nothing to hide behind closed doors. I say it to your face. Um, the the bubble is about to burst. My bubble, Elon's bubble, his AI bubble, or his IPO bubble. Wait and see. So Elon Musk, I know you're listening, buddy. You and your little broken penis. You're about to lose a major court case where you lose a lot of money and you lose your reputation and you're going to end up having to leave America. You're about to be exposed and everybody that you helped to rig their elections are going to be exposed as well. And when one falls, they all fall. And thank you for messing with my phone because I wouldn't have gotten this download otherwise. And it's actually taught me how to read the codes faster in the phases, put the input-output valve of the phases inside the particles. So you help me power up, which is what I've been saying. But the fallout is yet to come because I've I've already started receiving my upgrade. So if I'm upgrading, you're going to downgrade because of the cause and effect. You know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The reaction of you doing that to my phone has caused me to have this upgrade and download, and the effect of which is then going to pull you down. Because I rose, you'll fall. And I heard, and you'll take Chris with you. So did you? So obviously, you and Chris faked stuff. Hang on. Is that why Chris sent those photos accidentally through Thomas's email? A couple of years ago, I got an email from Thomas where it was just photos of me. And I said to Thomas, why did you send me photos of me? And he said, I didn't. And I've kept them. I have put them up before on my ex and that, but I kept them. And I said, Chris was giving someone, he accidentally sent my photos through Thomas's, so he was using his own son's email account to send stuff to people in his cult to use against me. But he accidentally sent it to using Thomas's email. He accidentally sent it to me through Thomas's email, but he was supposed to send it to someone else. And I said, he's either using the photos to be used for like their occult practices, you know how they'll take photos of you to put on the altar, or he was using it for AI, using it for Grok Imagine and that to fake like either OnlyFans pornographic stuff or to fake me on video saying stuff so that they could say, look, we have this evidence. I will put it in, I'll take photo, I'll show you. Because it just, as the phases are starting to close down, as the codes are starting to slow down and shut down, I just was told, and Chris. And then it took me back to Thomas. Because he unlocked something in me, that kid. Without him, I wouldn't have put the Archimedes bow in place over Russia. So because they keep touching Russia, it keeps coming back on them. Because I'm his guardian, I watch over him. And when they try to touch him, because I put the Archimedes bow in place and reverse engineered the portal, it's all bouncing back on them. And because now he's tried to mess with my phone, it's coming back on him and it's taking Chris down. So I'll show you the proof. I have got it on X and that as well, where I was talking about it, but I'll show you the proof. Chris used his own son's email address to send photos of me to other people to either use for occult sacrifices, because photos on the altar, or to fake AI stuff so that they could say, look. But when I went to my son, he said, it wasn't me, I was asleep. He said, I've only just woken up. And I said, well, who could have sent it then? He said, the only person that has access to my Gmail is you and Dad. So I said, well, he's obviously been sending photos to the cult to use to try and fake stuff against me. And I'll show you the photos too. Like I'll show you everything. I'm going to go now because it's starting to shut down and my stomach's going to start growling and screaming at me for food. But yeah, so that's what you get, Elon, for messing with my phone just now. Thank you so much, because it's proving the strongman effect. I'm loving every minute of it. I had to slow myself down when I first started recording because I was excited because I could see what was coming. So there we go. So we'll see what happens next. So I've risen So there's going to be news of the fall, because if I've already changed the course of energy, you know, the laws of induction, if I've already dealt with that, then now we're waiting for E equals MC squared. My equalizing effect will result in the inevitable dissension to counteract my ascension. My growth will be counterintuitive to their fall, because that's how the laws of karma work. So I'm going to go, and I will show you what Christopher Black did using his own son's email. And because remember, I said to you, when he called the cops that day on me, he wasn't just calling the cops on me, he was calling the cops on his own sons as well. He was fully prepared to get Thomas arrested to save his own skin, because he doesn't care about the boys. He just uses them as fodder. He's using them to get away with saving his own ass. He sacrificed them. He turned my son against me for his own gain, not caring that he caused that insurmountable amount of suffering to my baby and my oldest, to get away with attempted murder and fraud, and you know what he was doing behind the scenes. He sacrificed his own sons. He literally sacrificed his own sons, because as I keep saying, sacrifices don't have to be where they end your life. They can sacrifice your mental health, they can sacrifice your emotions, they can sacrifice your dignity. With me, they tried it all. Take my life, take my reputation, take my identity, take my purity, take my honesty, took my money, took my safety, took everything. They tried to sacrifice everything with me. They wanted me dead, they wanted me gone. But they underestimated a mother's love for her children, because I'm not giving up until I save my kids, until I know that my kids are okay, whether they love me for it or not. I said to Thomas when he was here, I am going to get justice. Chris is going to get taken away in handcuffs if it's the last thing I do. So it's all tying in together. I'm telling you, Thomas has some effect on my physics. Thomas does something. And I said to him, I've got a feeling like you're destined for something bigger than the RAF. And he said, I'm starting to see a pattern. Now that I know the stuff about Koro, he said, I'm starting to see a pattern, and I'm starting to understand myself a lot more. And he said, I agree. I think there's more for me than, you know, like I'm seeing something open up for me that's bigger than what I imagined. So I'm going to go, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And just remember, Thomas never sent them. Thomas was asleep. Thomas doesn't wake up until like anywhere between 11 and 1, depending on what time he goes to bed. And I thought it was weird, but yeah. It's just, as it was shutting down, it said, and Chris. And I thought, and Chris. And then I remembered those photos. Falsifying documents. Just like the cops falsified the documents. And the doctors falsified documents. So that's where we are so far. So let's see what the fallout is afterwards. But if anyone touches Russia, I mean, yeah, they're not going to have a choice now, because the worse it gets for them, the more they plot against God. So I'm going to go. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite. I'll put the thing in the post and then put all the links in the description box. Speak to you later. Mwah.